Today we're doing 11-2 areas of trapezoids, rhombi, and kites. Rhombi is plural of rhombus. So before we can even do any of this, we need to remember what those shapes are. So let's go to the back of our notes and let's write a few reminders down. Okay. So let's remind ourselves what a trapezoid is. Yeah, it's not really on yet, but that's fine. A trapezoid is what is a trapezoid? Four sides. Okay, we'll start there. It's a quadrilateral. Quadrilateral means four sides with exactly one pair. Good. Of parallel sides. People are usually pretty good about recognizing a trapezoid, but it's kind of hard to think of the definition. So that's your definition. So this is typically what people think when they think of a trapezoid, where one pair of sides is parallel. That okay? Then we have a rhombus, which we haven't seen in a while. That's a parallelogram. And again, let's remember what that is. A parallelogram has both pairs of opposite sides parallel. So it's quadrilateral again with both pairs of opposite sides parallel. So parallelogram with all four sides congruent. Okay. And then again, a picture. I'm just going to do that. Oops, it's parallel too. I guess I could draw that too. Parallel, 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 and congruent, 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 congruent. That's kind of a lot. You don't really need the parallel, I guess. That's a lot. So I would just do something like that. And then a kite looks just like a kite when you were a kid. Tell me you all flew a kite when you were a kid. If you haven't, are you kidding me? I know, I saw that. Okay, well, this week I'll bring one of my kids' kites and we're going to go fly a kite and we'll make it relate to math because you should fly a kite. Yes, I'll just don't break it. Okay? We'll do it. Maybe we could look up a project and we can make our own kite or something. I don't know. I'm sure there's something. Let's Pinterest that later. We'll look it up. All right. Or Google it, something. All right, a kite is a quadrilateral. You have to know what a kite is to make one, right? Because if you don't make it correctly, then it probably won't fly, I would guess. A quadrilateral with exactly two pairs of consecutive, congruent sides. So again, we got a quadrilateral, that's four sides. Ooh, that doesn't look great. Make it look like a kite. That's better. With two pairs of consecutive congruent sides. So those two would be consecutive, so they're congruent. And these two are consecutive, so they're congruent. So we have a trapezoid, a rhombus, and a kite. So once we understand that, let's go back to the front. Oh dear. That picture wasn't really that great. Neither is that one. You're done? Yeah. Okay. We weren't laughing at you. They were doing something weird. We were laughing at them. Okay. All right, so we have our formulas. Just like yesterday, you had, the area of a triangle, 1/2 base times height. You got a formula that you probably learned in 7th or 8th grade. So it's easy stuff, but it can get a little bit tricky if you don't know SOHCAHTOA or your 30, 60, 90 or whatever. The idea is the same as it was whenever you first learned it. Again, I think 7th or 8th grade, but the math gets a little bit harder because they don't just give you everything that you need. You have to kind of figure some stuff out. Okay, so a trapezoid, area is 1/2 height times base 1 plus base 2. The H and B are height and base. Rhombus and a kite have the same formula for area. So area is 1/2 diagonal 1 times diagonal 2. Does it matter which one I call diagonal 1 or diagonal 2? Probably not. 4 times 3 is the same as 3 times 4. It wouldn't matter. Okay? So don't get bogged down by that kind of stuff. Number 9, find the area. They did not say where to round, so I'm going to say if you have to, the nearest tenth is probably fine. What shape is this? A trapezoid. So let's start with our formula. What's the formula for the area of a trapezoid? This one, right? You always want to start with that. So something I kind of didn't talk about, and again, since I wasn't here yesterday, let's make sure you understand it. The height always has to have a perpendicular. It's not necessarily straight up and down vertical because it depends on how you turn the shape, right? But it has to be a right angle. So if it's not clear to you that it's right angle, or it's not clear that it's obvious it's a right angle, then that's probably not the height. So here, area is 1/2. What is our height on this picture? The 23, right? And then the bases are the parallel sides. So the 22 and the 37, order wouldn't matter because 22 plus 37 is the same as 37 plus 22. Does that make sense? So you write down the formula, you fill in what you know, you use the calculator probably, nearest tenth if necessary, and what do you get? Actually put it in yourself if you haven't yet. The area of this one is 678.5 feet squared. Anybody confused? Actually plug it in yourself. Don't just look at mine because you're like, yeah, I would get that. Some people don't plug this in correctly, so do it. Anybody confused? Okay, I'm going to move on. Number 11, what shape do I have? A trapezoid or a rhombus or a kite? It's a rhombus or a kite. We're not really sure what it is, or we could take our time and figure it out if we want to, but I don't need to, right? If I'm just finding the area, I don't really care which one it is. So the area of a rhombus or a kite is, 1/2 diagonal 1 times diagonal 2. So 1/2, what's one of the diagonals? Not 8. Sure, 17 is one of them. Yeah. What about the other one? 16, right? If this is 8, then this is 8. Then the whole thing is 16. Do you guys get that? So what's 1/2 times 17 times 16? 136 inches squared. Do you guys understand why area is always squared, not just by memorizing it? Why? So no. So here's why. 1/2, 17 inches, 16 inches. Do you guys see that's really what we're doing? Right? So what's x times x? X squared. So inches times inches, inches squared. It's not hard to memorize, but it's kind of nice to know where it came from. Anyone confused? Okay. Again, what shape do we have? A rhombus or a kite? Probably a kite, it looks like, right? Is it super necessary that we know which one it is? No. So 1/2, diameter 1, diameter 2. So what's one of the diameters? 11. The other one? 25, right? What is the answer to this one? 137.5 feet squared. Is anyone confused at all? Super easy, super straightforward, right? Anyone still need that page? Okay. Find the missing length. The area of a rhombus is 168 square centimeters. If one diagonal is 3 times as long as the other, what are the lengths of the diagonals? Let's read it again. The area of a rhombus. Area of a rhombus. Area equals what? 1/2. Diameter 1, diameter 2. That's where I'm going to start. The area of a rhombus, check, is 168 square centimeters. Where would that go? Yeah, in the A position, right? If one diagonal is 3 times as long as the other, so what do you want to call one of those diagonals? D, X, whatever, right? I don't know what it is. So I'm going to call it D. One of them is 3 times as much as the other one. So if I'm calling one of them D, the other one is 3D. That literally means 3 times as much as whatever D is, or X, or smiley face, whatever you want there, right? What do you do mathematically to figure that out? You could do that. There's really a couple options here. I'm going to go ahead and simplify this side. I'm going to take 1/2 D times 3D. And what's 1/2 times 3? Yeah, 3/2, same thing, right? And D times D is D squared. This is not the only way to do this problem. So whatever you guys just said I think was right. I think I heard you. So you could write 1.5 or you could write 3/2. It doesn't matter. So what am I going to do now? Divide by 1.5, divide by 3/2, multiply by 2/3, pick something, and what do you get? Yeah, 1/12. Everybody do it. Don't just look at mine. That's not good enough. Okay, now what? Square root both sides. Square root. So when you square root both sides of an equation, technically you're supposed to say plus or minus. Does a negative even make sense here? No. So we'll just do the plus. So we'll round to the nearest tenth for right now, but don't hit clear. What do you get for the diagonal? 10.6 is what I got. But leave it in your calculator, okay? So one of the diagonals is about 10.6, and the other one, leave that 10.6 in there. You don't want to take 10.6 times 3. You want to take the answer you have in your calculator times 3, because if not, you're rounding too often. So get that 10.6 back if you got rid of it already, okay? And then take it times 3 to get the second diagonal. And what do you have? 31.7. So the question said, what are the lengths of the diagonals? And there's one, there's the other one. Any questions? Anyone still need it? Okay. Last one. Find the area and the perimeter, round to the nearest tenth. On this shape, I don't really want to go back too far in time, but these are all going to be the same. If you go back to your rules, when you have diagonals bisecting one another, then it means that we had a rhombus. So that's from a while ago, but I don't want to go back that far. So what's the perimeter of the shape? 20 feet. So that's done. Okay. And then they also asked for area. So I'm going to cross off perimeter because I know I did that. Then they want area. This is, what did I say it was? Rhombus or a kite, whatever. Either way, we had to know it was a rhombus though to find that out. But pretend we didn't know that. For area, we wouldn't care. It would be the 1/2 D1, D2, right? I don't know either diagonal. Do you guys get that? So I can find them though. If this is 42 degrees, okay, I'm going to call this X for right now. So if I can find this, can't I find one of the diagonals, right? So I'm just looking at this right triangle right here. Do you guys see what I'm saying? So I'm going to use, I can't use 30, 60, 90. I can't use 45, 45, 90. What am I going to use? SOHCAHTOA, right? So from 42, what would you call X? Opposite. And what would the 5 be? Hypotenuse. Do you guys get that? So is that sine, cosine, or tangent? Sine. So I need the sine of 42 equals the opposite over the hypotenuse. And I'll come back and figure that out in a second, okay? That's how I'm going to find X in just a second. I'm going to call this one Y to help me find the second diagonal, right? So again, I'm just looking here. From 42, what is the Y called? From 42, what is Y? Opposite, adjacent, hypotenuse. Adjacent. And what's the 5 still? Hypotenuse. So I would use cosine of 42 equals y over 5. Do you understand that once I have this, I'll be able to find my diagonals, which is what I was really kind of looking for anyway? Okay? So to find x, what would I do? Multiply by 5. So in your calculator, don't hit clear ever, okay? Take sine of 42 times 5. What do you get? Like 3.3 is what I got, but don't get rid of it, okay? It's about 3.3, right? But that's not my diagonal, that's just part of it. So how am I going to find diagonal 1, if you will? Yeah, keep that 3.3 in your calculator, hit times 2. And what do you get? 6.7. Okay, don't get rid of it. I'm going to write 6.7 down, even though that's not what I'm going to use. That 6.7 we need to use again. So we need to store it. You have to remember things I've told you before. So find your store button. It's the one that says STO. And store this somewhere. The 6.7 is the one that I want to store. That's how I'm going to do it. Caitlin? We took 5 times sine of 42. Are you in degrees? Okay. Make sure you're in degrees. Got it? And then double it and store it. Everybody good with the storing part? Okay. So now let's find y. So once you've stored something, you can hit clear if you want to. That's fine. Okay? So to find y, we're going to take cosine of 42 times 5. And you get what? About 3.7, is that what you said? Yeah. Okay. Again, don't get rid of it. Get the 3.7 in your calculator. And that's just this piece. How am I going to get the whole diagonal? Times 2, and you get? 7.4. Like 7.4. You can store that if you want to, or you can just go ahead and use it here in a second. That's up to you. Okay? So we're going to take the 7.4, if it's still in your calculator, just keep it in there. Times, it doesn't matter, you take it times 1/2 times the recall 6.7. Somehow multiply all those together and let me know what you get. 24.9. Feet squared. 24.9 feet squared. 8. What's after the 8?
No, I got 24.757.
Then you didn't do it right. You have to use the round, or the stored 6.7 and the stored 7.4. Times the 1/2.
Oh, wait.
So don't let yourself get confused just because we have to hit store, okay? If you still don't get that after today, I'll take time and I'll help you with the store because it's worth your time to figure out. But pretend I didn't have time to show you that. Couldn't you just write down like 4 or 5 decimals and use that? That's fine too. It's just not great. You know, we're in geometry. Let's math it up a little bit, okay? Questions anywhere? Okay, great.